Hello everyone and welcome to Festival of Women Now 2020, a 3-week festival, interdisciplinary festival that celebrates and amplifies the work of women creatives, change makers and thought leaders. In general, it's about women championing the works of other women. And this year, we're bringing Now 2020 in a digital format and brought to you free. Because of that, I'm appealing to you to consider donating to TCare. Your contributions will go a long way in supporting Now and its endeavors, and most importantly, in supporting the creatives, freelance collaborators that help to make Now possible. And what is TCare? TCare is established by T-Works. It's a fundraising initiative that supports projects led by women that makes the borders between art and life more porous. And not only that, it supports these projects that make an impact in society. This year, TCare supports 7 projects, and they are the Codet Project, led by Nurul Jihada Hussein, Keeping Hope Alive, led by Fionn Phua, Project X, with Vanessa Ho, Sherry Shakisha, and Wani, It's Raining Raincoats, led by Deepa Swaminathan, Project Julia Street, co-founded by Eva Limson, 3 Pumpkins, led by Lin Shiyun, and of course, Now, helmed by myself. If you are in a position to give, do consider contributing to TCare. Your contributions will be divided equally and shared between these 7 projects. Thank you very much. For more information on TCare, you can click onto giving.sg and search for TCare, or visit the Now website at notordinarywork.com. Hello everyone at home or wherever you are, on a mobile phone or on desktop. Hello Joe Tan and hello Jasmine Ng. Thank you very much for joining us in conversation with Joe Tan and Jasmine. A post-show conversation after that rambunctious performance that Joe did, directed by Jasmine, called King. Yeah. Thank you very much for those who are here. That's Joe there. Wave.
Yes. Hello, it is I, I'm Joe, hello.
And of course, thank you very much, Jasmine, as well. Hi, Jasmine.
I'm doing one of the characters.
Yes, one of the 8 characters. We should have named Jezebel Jasmine.
I think that's isn't that somebody from TNS? Seems to be. Cannot.
Anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to those who are watching us tonight. If you caught King and you have questions that you would like to have Joe and Jasmine answer, please type it onto the T-Works Facebook page or T-Works YouTube page, whichever platform that you're on, and we will endeavor to have them screen onto our vMix live mixer thing that is going on right now with the technology that we're doing, and we'll answer them as best as we can. Yes, ladies?
Yes!
So we're now set to go. If you notice, Joe is truly the Energizer Bunny. So she's written the script to perform those 8 characters, and this is the aftermath of having performed those 8 characters. And tonight she's on the 9th. The 9th character is this Gila woman that is now on screen with us.
Yes, it is I. Hello, hi, Dana.
Hello, Dana.
Hello, Dana.
No, we should still say hello to these wonderful people that have come on board to say hello.
Yes. Hello.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay. So now we begin, and I have a question to ask of Joe, because this is something that I think it would be great to know the context of how you got inspired to write a play like this. So, did you put on a costume yourself one time a long time ago? you know.
Yes.
And for what purpose? And why? Why did you do that? Did you suddenly wake up one day and go, yeah, I would like to wear men's clothes for a change?
Um, I mean, okay, honestly, I think with gender being so fluid nowadays, I think basically women have been doing it for ages. I mean, ever since
Yes.
Catherine Hepburn made pants popular, right? I mean, we've been doing it for ages, and then people have been wearing tuxedos and pants. But for myself specifically, I just think of it within the ambit of women's clothes, right? I mean, women are lucky in that we get to wear menswear without a lot of judgment. But what happened was that it was the Orange Playground, the very first iteration of
Mm-hmm.
this experimental project organized by the Necessary Stage in 2015. Yes, I think that's the year. And we were supposed to show up for the very first meeting, all in character. And it was a mixture of so many different people. Becca DeBus was one of the participants. And we had a movement artist, Beverly as well. We had like actors like Faisal and Ellison, who's now heading the Finger Players. And basically, we were just supposed to show up in character, and there were no restrictions on what characters we should show up as. But being the lazy person I was, I was like, okay. I just looked around my house and my husband's clothes. My husband is a character, right? So I wore his clothes, and I have a bunch of wigs at home. Don't ask me why. I had this like wig that was supposed to be a women's wig, but it was not a women's wig. It looked like a messy like Japanese boys wig. So I put that on, and I sort of like wore two sports bras, one of them back to front to flatten my cleavage area, and then it was weird. Like I felt so like the moment I wore the clothes, I felt really powerful. And stepping into the taxi and just like because I think it was yes, just stepping into the taxi, and I think the driver was addressing me as if I was a boy. And then when I was there, because we're all supposed to interact with each other in character, I was thinking, why are people interacting with me so differently than they would with Joe? And I think also, yeah, and then some of them were like, oh gosh, like I understand. I've heard since that some performers thought I was really good looking in drag, and I've heard that apparently somebody had a crush on me in drag. And I was like, oh, wow, that's great. It never happens to me when I'm a woman. So hey, yeah, and then but it was just something about playing just the way people were interacting with me. I felt very liberated to say whatever I thought. And I think that women, we tend to be very apologetic, like, hey, okay, so this is what I think. But I mean, feel free to disagree with me. This is me being a woman. I mean, but I mean, like, I feel that when you put on a sort of more male persona, you just say whatever you think and you do not apologize for it. And just, I feel for me, that was the main takeaway. Just wearing that body, which I've continued to do occasionally since for performances, you feel a lot less apologetic. You feel happy and confident to take up whatever space you're taking up, and you feel like you deserve that space. And I don't know why that is. It's very strange. So I decided to write. It's this sort of a perspective, which is now king, on what it is that we feel about being a woman, both as women and both as men. What do they think being a woman means? And try to pit these views against each other and see what turned out.
And just for the viewers out there, who's watching, when Joe first sent me the script and I read it, it was at the time when Now was supposed to be a live event. So I already had this wonderful idea. I think, yes, we will stage it live. And I already thought, oh dear, how are we going to have these characters enacted, right? Joe, are you going to do it alone? Are you going to change costume? Are you going to perform all of them? Or are you going to have another character on board? So those were the things that we were discussing. And then the pandemic struck. And in that way, it was also, I believe, a blessing, because then we were given an opportunity to figure a way to have it staged nonetheless, still have that liveness. And then we both, and Joe and I, we approached Jasmine. And this is where I come to, Jasmine, because you're the director of this piece, and we've heard this context from Jo on how she began writing the work. But for you, Jasmine, when we first approached you, right, and we said, would you like to read the script? And then secondly, after you read the script, would you like to direct it as a digital platform performance? And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, oh, because it might be very useful because from your background with film, you might be able to bring something to this work because we see the digital frame as a lens frame, a frame with lens. And so now I'm asking you, Jasmine, embarking on it, did that film tradition of yours, film training of yours, come to any use? Was it
I
useful in
hope
any
so.
way?
I hope from what you see. No, so when and again, now that it's over, I can safely say yes. Thank you both for bringing me on for this. Um, when I was really excited about the script, and it's one of those things when you are, as any creative, as soon as you see something, you get excited about the ideas and you start generating all this, like, oh, we could do this. And then, and then very instinctively, I think, Joe, and then even Nolina yourselves, you saw what the possibilities are. And just from the idea of the frames and different lenses, it kind of suggests different points of view and perspectives already. So that seemed like an obvious thing to do, and I remember the first virtual table read by Zoom that I did with Jo, and we said, okay, we're going to set up 3 cameras, and then we'll see what else we can play with. And she kind of instinctively knew who to turn to, where to turn to, when. But I have to say, more than anything else, it's only the last few hours I started breathing again, because for the last 2 weeks I just haven't really breathed properly. I've been telling friends, because it's one thing to do a film, it's one thing to do a film and then put it online digitally. It's another thing to film the performance live switch between the cameras, live stream, and the conclusion is theater people are insane. I mean, I've always known this, that theater people are crazy. That it takes this idea that, let's tightrope walk without a safety net. Yeah. And several nights, in a row. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. So it's a complete other experience altogether doing this live.
Yes. There is a question out there by Robin. It says, does Joe perform the show live every night? Well, in actual fact, it was only that one night, which was yesterday night. But for me, Joe performed live every time we tested a live stream. And we tested it, I think, how many times? 4 times?
5, I think. I think before 5, I'm not sure, around there. Yeah.
Yeah, there was, and with each time we really wanted to see what it means to go live, because it is about bringing theatre through the digital framework, and theatre is always about it being live. Because I think Jasmine did raise, hey, why don't we record it? Right, Jasmine, you were thinking
That
about
was
the
only because
possibility of
I was
recording it.
just being
Yes.
such a coward. I was like, isn't it safer if we just throw it first? So I was shitting my pants, that's why. Yeah.
Yeah, oh my
Yeah.
God, yeah, I remember that moment. She was like, okay, I have an idea. Let's record it. I was like,
That's
no.
the backup.
Yeah, I was, yeah, I think, yeah, but thank you for going through with it, because it was just so exciting, because I think we were all grappling with the concept of what it meant to go live on a digital platform. Where would people know the difference anyway? And gosh, I think they did, from the interactions that we had. I mean, that we had, that people texted over or people left in the comments. It was because people are sort of like biting their lips with you, like, oh God, is she gonna screw up, or is she gonna mess up this part? So yeah, I think there's something about liveness that can't be replaced, even if it's mediated through the digital platform. I don't know what you guys think, Jasmine and Olina.
And actually, in fact, the other 2 players in this is Raymond Gui, the sound designer, and also Hanafi Hafid, who did the camera and the live switching, because they are dancing along with Joe.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
yeah,
Right. Because she couldn't, if she improvised a little, if she did something, they had to dance and tango along with her. So for me, all I did was just clench my jaw, cross my fingers, cross my eyes, and watch things happen and write notes. But every time we performed and rehearsed for, a test run and everything, Raymond and Hanafi were just dancing along with Jo and her 8 characters.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you caught it, it was all about 8 characters performed virtuosically by Jo Tan, the actress, who also wrote the piece. And then for those who have not caught it but happen to be here tonight to listen to us in this in conversation, do drop by the T Works YouTube channel to catch this time the recorded streamed video, which is, so it's a video now, and it is that what you see is entirely from last night's recording. So she was live last night, and now forever that life is captured. It's the legacy she's left behind from last night's work, and that's what you get to see from now till the 2nd of August, 11:59 p.m. So do catch it. We've got a congratulations out there, which I would like to read, and this is from Lily Chung. Congratulations, Joe and Jasmine, for a phenomenal performance. I'm still so impressed with the transition, with no sip of water. Oh, okay. And then she says, and the moral of the story is also great. Dancing around is a good phrase, says a lot about male privilege. Now, before we come to the idea of the male privilege, which is at the center of it, I would like to show the audience what it looks like, I think, behind the scene, the BTS, the behind the scene shots. Yeah, can we have some shots? Okay, Jasmine, can you talk us through how this is space 2 in T-Works with all the social distancing of, I think, more than a meter. If you notice that the tables are pulled apart and everyone has got some kind of mask. So if you focus very closely, those who are monitoring this, they did wear the mask as well as the plastic shield. So this, Jasmine, please take us through what's going on at the back here.
So I guess, for those of you who were with us right from the start of this conversation, we were saying that when we first started talking about this, it was the middle of COVID circuit breaker. And when we started devising this, the idea was that, okay, whatever happens, even if we're still in lockdown, touch wood, by the time of show date, we were going to at least, we know that we've got a 3-camera setup, whether there was going to be, hey, Joe, use every phone camera in your house and we can do this via Zoom. Or if it was relaxed, we were going to then move into a theater space. And then, but we kind of figured it would lend itself very well to sort of just by having, because Joe has to navigate between 8 characters, right? And it's kind of rapid fire delivery. So we've put 3 cameras, as you'll see, 3 camera positions. We're trying to deal with studio lights and be mindful of shadows. So all the kind of things that if you're making a film, you would just do one shot and then you can change the lighting setup, change the camera position. We kind of had to, all this had to be set for one entire film. And so the lighting, the lighting board operators, Andy, the whole team, there was other people dancing along with Joe as well, as we were saying before. So everything had to be cued. She has to remember all the camera cues, all her lighting cues. And it's just insane, the amount of stamina and just, I don't know, really, Joe has balls of steel. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going into the anatomy. All right, the male privilege, we're privileging that as well. We're co-opting that now. So that's the backstage. It's something to do with the angles. I think you spoke a little bit about that, Jasmine, of how you actually angled the cameras quite differently. The eye line, the way you perch the eye line. Could you elaborate that a little bit and how that affects the characterization and how Joe feels about it? Yeah.
So not to give anything away, but I think so. Certain characters inhabit certain camera angles, right? So I think the central one, who's the main character, that's the camera right in front of her. And so, because of her demeanor and everything, she's confiding, with the viewer. So we had that at eye level. And for the other cameras, you actually see the other characters. And because of the dynamics, it always tended to be, so that way of looking down into the camera lens, looking down the barrel of a gun, challenging the viewer. We want to give that sense of who these characters were just because, just by the dynamics they had, by the position of the camera, eye level. So it was just very subtle. It was just really small little details like that we thought would help separate the spaces and define the characters. Because with characters, how do you sort of define them enough so that they don't start to bleed and to each other, and because there's there's no set to speak of, right? So how do we suggest this? And different psychological spaces, different kind of literal, location spaces. So these were we did that by sculpting, and using the lights in a very, very different way.
In fact, it was truly quite subtle, because you wouldn't have noticed it until you mentioned it. Because when I was watching it, it was really, you get immersive feeling of the characters, because the lens was so up close, right? How does that feel, Joe, when you're performing this? It's so different from live theatre.
Well,
How's that feeling for you?
I can't tell what the framing is on the camera because everybody has to be at least 1 meter away, preferably 2 meters away. So I can't tell what the framing is. It could be a tight shot. It could be a mid close up. I really don't know. So I will find out when I watch the performance later. But it generally I was a bit conscious that I could not screw up because everything was so close up. So there was something a bit terrifying about that. And there's no second takes, right? I mean, it's literally, if you talk about the East Coast plan, that's it. It's forever. People be talking about the East Coast plan forever and ever. That's it. It was something that I was quite conscious of, and I actually became extremely conscious about it, especially for some of the emotional scenes. And yeah, it was kind of stressful because
Joe. Oh my God, that's like a statement of the century.
It's like if you are like crying into somebody's face like this, I was like, oh, yeah. So it just felt it felt a bit stressful to me because first of all, no second takes, and second of all, I mean, you don't have co-actors to play with to help you with that. It was a bit stressful, and of course, because of the first camera being set right in front of me at eye level, I could constantly see my reflection. I was like, oh. How am I looking? So it was a little bit distracting, but I mean, yeah, it was okay. I mean, after a while, I think we ran it enough times that you have to learn to trust who's behind the camera. You have to learn to trust our wonderful volunteers who came in to operate it. The entire crew was like watching you on the live stream. You just trust that they're listening to you, and you trust that they are the audience, they are the live audience. And of course, the people who came to watch us yesterday, thank you so much. I did think about, I'm delivering these to people, even if they are so far away right now because of the zeitgeist of this time. I suppose this is our means of connection. So I still was thinking about connecting with the audience. So in that way, it was very similar to theatre because you just have
I see. Great.
Yeah.
Yes, great. Yeah. Here we have a comment from Pamela, and it says it was so seamless. The light, the character transitions. Bravo to all of you. Well done. I'm a bit blind, so I can't really see those little comments at the bottom. They're really tiny.
I will help you.
Yes, great. Because the impact of COVID is actually my blindness. Because we spend so much time on the digital frame, and my eyesight has gotten worse. So I have another window which is a bit bigger, so I can read that. Thank goodness we can recognize Emily's name, so then I could catch. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Cheryl, for saying such a great job, everyone. Thank you very much, Cheryl. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to come to the crux and the heart of the script, and that is to do with the issues at hand. Before we go and dig into this, and this is for those who may be joining us and not caught the live performance yesterday, but would like to take a little peek. I'm giving you a little peek without any spoilers, and this peek is the Ethan's moment with
Sterling.
Jared Sterling. I was thinking, oh, am I not allowed to show that? Thinking
it's in the synopsis. So
yes. Ethan's confrontation with Sterling. I really like this moment, because in this moment, a lot of the layering and a lot of the prejudices, and even back and forth, the questions of both sides talking to each other and raising questions of what it means to have this privilege, whether it is a male privilege, and what does it mean within the specific gender that we talk about, the gender stereotypes that we talk about, is encapsulated quite neatly in this particular moment. Can we have this Ethan confrontation film for us to view, please?
You don't fucking get it. And that's because you had no stake in this. You have no role in the history of drag, the legacy of drag. People like me and Mama Lemon who've been doing this since before it was trendy or glamorous against just throwing on men's clothes for fun. Right. Now she has to have some special reason to wear men's clothes, okay? Hey, you think you got the copyright on her wearing men's clothes? People gonna arrow to play father or brother since she was in Dunman LDDS, okay? And you called her here because you thought she had fun wearing men's clothes, what? So now you want her to have what? Special legacy? I want you to take the responsibility you have to the drag scene now that we've invited you in. You have a duty to us, especially since you have so much privilege. You're getting married in a few months, for fuck's sake. And you don't think that Yen's fiance will leave her if he finds out all about this? Then go! Stop. People like me and Mama, we need this place. You don't.
Wow, thank you very much. And that was just 2 characters out of 8. Joe.
So screwed up some of the
yes.
Aussie accents at the start. Sorry. And the Australian as well. I was like, when I was saying it, I was like, oh no. But yeah.
It is a true mark of the actor that is, for most of us who have done stage performances, to watch the playback and then start to criticize our work. You know, that is just, it is very, very right. This is Joe would, that's why watching this is a bit of a cringe factor for Joe, I'm sure. It is that you start to think of the faults, but actually the work is really great, and I would like to say that as a fellow actress watching it, I really was very, very happy to have seen it and watched it, and in complete awe and very much in amazement at all the 8 characters, especially towards the tail end as well. You know, I really felt moved by every single one of the character. It's kudos to your writing as well. But this
Yes,
particular
absolutely,
moment,
yeah.
yeah, isn't it, Jasmine? Yeah. So for this
No,
particular moment, let's talk a little bit about this moment. The lag time is really funny, so we're just jumping into each other. But yes, Joe, talk about this moment to us. Yeah.
I mean, it was interesting because I had previously had conversations with people about why this show is called King, and I think some people have commented, should you be writing about drag king culture? You yourself being a cisgendered and straight woman, and that to me was a whole bunch of issues came up, and I appreciated that people pointed out that okay, so as the legacy and the history of drag was I mean, originally it began as a place where, of course, people of a certain sexuality, of a certain gender identity, they could be themselves and they could be celebrated for who they were. And so the question was that, could I take that and use it in my show? And then the counterpoint of that is that the performance of gender itself is a kind of drag. And if you watch a lot of more modern drag shows, you see straight women playing drag queens. You see straight women playing drag queens and singing in their own voices. I mean, if you go to some of Becca de Bassa's shows like Riot, you actually see these performances. You can be a drag king if you are a man. So the question was, I just struggled with that for a minute. Like, how much do I do to fulfill my duty to undoubtedly less privileged people who also inhabit the drag scene, notwithstanding the fact that I also have performed as a drag king. And that became quite a thorny issue for me. And elements of this conversation that you just saw have actually been taken from conversations that I've had with friends that were giving their view to me on this. So yeah, some of the struggle I think is in there. First, the questions are: what is drag? If I dress as my friend's brother in the RGS school show, because there's no boys, am I in drag? And then do I then owe a duty to the drag scene, or is it just by virtue of the fact that because I am able to privilege from the fun and the glamour of this drag scene, because it's built on the backs of all these non-privileged people who struggle to build it, then what duty do I owe to them? And undoubtedly, I do owe it to them. So I'm grateful that Nolina has been willing to pass the mic to two perhaps two drag kings that you will encounter, I think, in a performance, in a sharing session coming up. So yeah, this is something that I was struggling with. So, but personally, I also do think that I've written the play in such a way that everybody is doing some sort of drag. They're performing some sort of gender role. So yeah, I mean that's going to be my that's my thought on this, and I hope that I haven't overstepped any boundaries. But it was something I had to be very careful navigating.
And Jasmine, you raised that too about the performance of being dragged, because it's costuming. It's more than just an everyday. It's the everyday. Some of the women too
It is
go
the
through
everyday.
drags. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, and I think I mean, I guess, you know, even from Joe's own experience, not as just performing as drag queen, but that idea that you know, what is it to be
Drag king.
drag king? Yeah, and the idea that, you know, in every stage of us growing up as women, you know, across different sexual orientation and all that, that you feel like, am I in the right skin? Am I performing to what I'm supposed to be? And as you've pointed out, every single character is performing a sort of drag, whether they know it or not, right? And so I thought that what was interesting about it, and because some of the characters are objectionable and say very objectionable things, but I think Joel kind of wrote it in a very authentic way. And some of them it's said knowingly, so most of it is said unknowingly, but because of the way she's written it, and that kind of counterpoint and that banter and that kind of, like, you know, batting back and forth between the different characters, you kind of see it play out in a way that I think we need to kind of sometimes see unpleasant things hurled and then lobbied back, and see how that kind of, you know, that tussle plays out. And I think so Joe's done a brilliant job, not just writing it, but also inhabiting those characters who have to kind of, you know, tangle with each other.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to add something. I don't know whether it was covered, but I do actually do drag king performances, which is what also inspired me to write this show, King. So it's not just like, haha, I think drag is a great thing to write about. I'm just kind of like, it's partly lifted from my own experiences as well in a drag club. Yeah, occasionally.
Occasionally, when you have some time. No. I'm also interested in this is something to do with what you lost. Yeah. And this is a question raised from Becca the Bus. Hello, Becca. Hello, thank you
Hi,
for joining
Becca.
us. Hello. And it's a question about the form, because now because of the situation that is, and we have to stage it live. So he's interested to know what you feel as a performer, what you have lost in moving the show out of the physical space into the digital space. You know, what are your thoughts about it as a performer?
Right. So what I'm just going to say, what I think I gained was the fact that I think certain things were quite nuanced. So just having the confidence of, my cam ops will zoom into my face when they need to. So that was great, because you don't really get close-ups in theater, which is why it's a different form. What I thought was lost was the transitioning for me as an actor, the ease of transitioning between the characters, because I did another one woman show last year, was called Forked, and I was able to use my whole body and different spaces to go, okay, this is, now I'm this character, now I'm this character, now I'm in this space, now this has happened to me. The number of times I've done this script, almost up to the performance day yesterday, and I've just missed out giant chunks of lines because I had no idea where I was, who I was. It was you don't have the anchor of space and your full body, so it's easy for everything to bleed into. It's easy for everything to bleed into each other. What I feel was lost. For the audience, I do not. I think it's hard for me to say. I think it would be great. I think when you step into a theater space and you see a set, that's always like, that's a nice set. That's always nice. And the experience, of course, of being around other people, that communal experience, and sometimes you don't get something, and people are like, haha, people are like, oh, and then you're like, oh, and then having that support of building a communal awareness and a communal response. I think that's something that all theatre loses. For this piece, I have not written enough scripts to say specifically what this piece would have lost. But for me, I mean, I was sad to personally to not have that communication with the audience, and to have the audience not be able to communicate with each other. And Becca, thank you so much for helping me with some of the thorny issues of the script. I don't know how you found it, but I will ask you later.
Talk
But
later, I
yeah,
don't say now.
no, but Becca was great.
Quite
Becca
furiously
really
now in the comments below.
but okay, but thank you, Becca. Thank you. Okay, thanks.
I think
Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
the things for sure, just following on from what Joe was saying, if this piece were performed with a live audience, the rhythm would be completely different. The
Yes.
beats would be quite different as well, because I think we were very deliberately, in some of the lines that Joe did, she knew where to kind of place that beat, and almost like after that punchline, almost anticipating a reaction, and I had to tell her, don't, just go on to the next one, and carry on to the next line, because you're creating a space for which you're not going to actually, it's not going to be filled when it's in this kind of like virtual film space, right? So then the rhythm, and then that idea that just dialing things just right, because these are close-ups, and the room for failure and the room for everything to be just too much very easily.
I'm glad you
All
didn't
of it
tell
has
me
to be
that.
like recalibrated. Huh? What?
I'm glad you didn't tell me that about all the room for failure being so huge. But yeah,
Well, I was really shitting my pants for the both of us. So I was like, why do all theater people do this all the time and then do it again after you wrap one production? Like, how many stomach ulcers does a person need?
sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Continue, Jasmine.
No, it's just so really, yeah, calibrating between the different kind of spaces, how anticipating how the viewer will take this in, as opposed to being in in the theater, you're kind of like I'm not trying to say that everything has to be so rapid, because you have to grab people by their eyeballs, right? But their attention span is different, so the sense of rhythm is different. That sense of like, how you're kind of like in the same zone with your audience, are in the same zone as you as an actor on stage, that's different too. So we had to
Yeah.
just kind of be mindful of that.
Oh yeah, also a thought when we did the simulated drag number. I mean, yeah, I mean it was kind of just silly, but I missed yeah, I mean when you do something like that and like nobody's reacting to you, it's just it's really kind of, yeah, I mean you miss the audience response, of course. Yeah.
Yes, it's true that what we lacked was the immediacy of the community that's watching. How do you respond to it? And at the end of it, because I was manning both the Facebook also, and I was watching it between the Facebook and the YouTube, trying to figure out, are people responding? Are they going to mention something? So I encouraged some people to put laughter emojis. If you're laughing, put a laughter emoji, because I thought maybe that might help. Just put a laughter emoji there. And there was one person who did one, and after that, there was great amount of silence. And I said, "Oh dear, what's happening here? I'm not sure. There's no comments." And then suddenly, when it ended, the clap emojis came out, and there were quite a few people with congratulations and the clap. So I felt that it's hard to tell, because you don't get to see the audience, isn't it? And you don't get to hear them and feel them, and you're not sure whether they're with you or not. But it's wonderful to know that this is an experimentation for us. How do we experiment going live and creating a performance? And how do we know that the community is watching it and focusing on it and giving us their attention? Because we talked about how limited the attention is in the digital space. We all talked about that during the process of making it. We do have one comment here, and it's from Pam again. Could you feel the audience? I think she wanted to know whether, Joe, could you feel the audience at all at any point during a performance? If you could imagine that, I it was there. Because for me, I was responding like laughing out loud at home, and I believe you could potentially feel and sense the audience. Do you, she believes that you could. Could you? Could you in any way?
Honestly, Pam, I felt no because no, and also because the crew that we have, gosh, they're so respectful, and of course by the time everybody comes in, it's a live stream, right? Or even when we were rehearsing, people will mute themselves so that they could see my performance, and it's literally like, wow, I'm just in a void. I'm just in a void performing to myself. But occasionally when we had runs, I think like Nolina will come in, or there was one where my husband was sitting far back, like a mask and a face shield, like watching. And then I heard him laughing, and then I was like, and then after that, I got feedback from some of our very few test audience members, and that gave me some sort of confidence, like, oh, okay, people are responding to that. And it also gave me points where I know, okay, people respond to certain things, people feel this thing here, how do I calibrate this moment? So I imagined, Pam, that you were laughing at the moments I thought you were laughing at. I can't tell for sure, but thank you so much for your support. And like, yeah, it's yeah, we're so grateful for it. But honestly, it is like performing in a void. Yeah.
This
I
is
actually
sorry, Jasmine.
yeah
Continue,
no
Jasmine. Sorry.
yeah, like when Norlina had come in, just following from what Joe was saying, it was because while you came to watch it in the same studio space, you were watching it from your laptop because the idea was to watch it streamed and with the camera switching, right? You're not watching all the cameras going at it at once. So, and because, when it's being live streamed, there's an actual delay. So the funny thing was you would laugh at bits and then we would hear you laughing in the studio and wondering like, which part are you laughing at? Because it was kind of like off sync, right? And the other thing was, I got to say, after all the rehearsals and all the, the test runs, streaming and everything, up till last night, I can't remember which line it was. At one point, I again laughed out loud and I had to like really struggle to suppress it because I didn't want it to be heard because we're sitting so close to her that I didn't want it caught by the mics. But I got to say, I mean, the lines. I think I was talking to Kai, who helps with the works on the marketing for the Now Festival. Some of the lines are just so hysterically funny, so gloriously stupid, and I think there's something about. I love that. I actually one of my favorite my childhood heroes was Carol Burnett. That that embracing, there was something authentic about embracing that stupidness and reveling in that, and and the characters had this kind of, even though sometimes they said really horrible thing, there was an innocence to them and you could feel affection for them even though you want to chastise them. That I thought there was something very special about that kind of humor, so great job on that,
Thank
Joe.
you.
Yes. Yeah, there were very many sterling moments, not the Sterling the character, but sterling moments for laughter. There were so many, and that I caught myself laughing a little too loudly when I was in one of the rehearsals because I was watching it online. Yes, and so my laughter came um, after the fact because there is lag, right, between what's happening live and what's happening for me on digitally viewing it on my laptop. And then I try to stifle it, So there were lots and lots of moments, which I'm not going to go into detail because for those who are not watching it, you should watch it in its full glory and you can laugh out loud. But I would like to request for those who are watching it again or watching it for the very first time, starting from tonight, do drop a note. Joe Tan has her own Facebook. So you go to Joe's Facebook and tell them which lines you like. Inundate
Actually,
them.
that would be
And in
useful to get.
the YouTube as well, and then comment to the YouTube section.
Yeah, oh yes,
Sterling will
of
tell
course,
you
comment.
where. The Sterling will tell
Just
you when
comment in
to
the YouTube.
comment.
Just comment in the YouTube, like not my Facebook, because I think
Yeah,
it's
yes,
very
comment on the
very
YouTube. Sorry,
hidden.
but yeah, but it would be very useful actually to know which lines appeal to you. I want to ask for the two of you. I know Joe wrote all the 8 characters. There were some characters that really resonated with me. For Jasmine, which are the characters that you feel hits you quite hard? Is there one character or 2 characters that you really feel
No
was
lah, come
special
on.
for
Of
you?
course, the answer would have been all 8. Actually, I could say the more. Well, I mean, I don't want to give it away, but some of the most objectionable characters I felt a lot for because I think what Joe was able to bring out both in the script and in the performance was that sense of where it came from. From the hurt that the characters was hurling at the others, where that came from. I think that came through really nicely. And so even for the most like kind of despicable character, I felt a lot for that character. You have to watch to find out which one it is. And then
Yes.
I know Nolina, who's your favorite?
I have a favorite, but then that's what I would like to ask the audience out there who's here. Was there one favorite when you watched it? But I did because when I watched it, there was this one character that really encapsulated some ideas that I was holding on to throughout the time making now, and something to do with the idea of which is embedded in the theme of what Joe wrote about the gender construction of how we think they like what they're wearing, but they're actually doing it because they feel they need to. This is one clip. It's called the Jezebel clip because that's the way for me to cue. It's a Jezebel clip, and I really like this character. I would like to have that clip shown, just a short one. May I, please?
I understand why you dress like a man. It's not that different from why I dress more like a woman than I have to, with the painful high heels and the push-up bra and these tight dresses that you all like to talk so much about. It's a costume, so that people pay more attention to us. But I like to think that if Gyok Kien had approached me today, instead of Sterling, if you had asked me the same questions, I would have given you the same answers, the same respect.
And the issue of respect, which is quite a strong thing in your script, isn't it? Yeah. And how especially in fact I didn't know it even after reading it so many times and watching it and doing so many runs. It was only yesterday that it hit me much more. It's about how you give respect and what is respect and what is it that how do we gain it, how do we we desire it, we want it, but how do we get it? Who gives it to us? Do we give it to ourselves? Can we wear it naturally for ourselves? Is that what it is? This elusiveness of how respect is. Maybe Joe, when you're writing it, could you elaborate a little bit more about that theme?
Yeah, it's odd. I suppose something that a lot of women, a lot of people would already be familiar with is the concept that if you're a female high-ranking person in whatever organization, sometimes you are advised to diminish yourself and your opinions so that your male subordinates, will actually think higher of you. So that's interesting. It's sort of it's almost become cultural or societal, that especially in Asian societies, that if you are too forward with your own views that are very well supported or whatever, people actually respect you less. People actually like you less, they respect you less. So I mean, yeah, there are different characters who deal with it in a different way. I think the character you just saw, Jezebel, I mean, Jasmine quite brilliantly talked just now about putting on different sorts of drag. Drag, very loosely speaking, is sort of the performing a gender identity, and she performs femininity in a certain way because she uses it to get what she feels she needs to get along in the workplace. So she might be a little bit more feminine, she might laugh a bit more, rather than being like super duper assertive. Yen, she's constantly, Yen, who's the protagonist of this piece, is constantly diminishing herself just so that she can be liked, she can be accepted. It's only when she feels that she's wearing the body of a man that she feels she can state her views and have her views respected, and they are. So it's different people trying to get respect in different ways by performing different gender expectations. Yeah, so I like Yen performs it very literally. She's just like, okay, if I want to be respected like a man, I'm just gonna be a man. So there's different things. Whereas Jezebel goes the opposite extreme. She's like, I know what the gender expectations are, and I'm going to completely lean into them. And yes, but unfortunately, that also does come with consequences as well. So yeah.
Jasmine, do you want to add on to that?
No, I gotta say, I mean, watching that clip, I mean, that comes in the latter part of the play, but she is such a fun character because I think that, I mean, okay, conjecturing, a big element of drag is that play, that sense of play. And I think, in the way that Jezebel kind of, uses this her performance of feminine drag, feminine drag. There's something very playful and cheeky about that. And I realize I've seen that in a lot of women in the same critiques that, you know, the people in the office have of Jezebel. I've had those kind of preconceptions of certain people. And then when you kind of, you know, behind this, like, you know, the when you peel that all away, you get to see that sense of fun because they know they're playing a character and they're actually relishing that. And so there's a lot of delight in how Jo plays that character. And then you realize there's actually she knows how the game is being played. And there is something very juicy and something yeah, I think it was kind of unexpected, you know. I think on the first read, you know, she doesn't quite stand out. And I think then on workshopping it, and actually Jezebel has changed quite a lot from the first time we had that table read. So I think it was quite interesting how she has stood out. Pretty much with the same lines, but now, you know, with the layering that you know, Jo is adding to it.
Yes, it was a really for me, and there's Genevieve Ong out there as well. She too, like Jezebel, she left the most lasting impression to me, says Genevieve.
Yeah.
While others have said yes, they've liked all of them. You know, they were really, really amazing to see. But for me, Jezebel rang so closely, wound up because of the surprise of knowing that what she's wearing is weaponized. She's weaponizing what she is putting on, and that in some ways, I felt that the choice of you, Jasmine, wanting Jo not to be in too many props, you know, just being clean, almost neutral, you know, neutral top, and of course, because we were planning to see if the circuit breaker was even more intense, then we just zoom it. That's why the lens was kept in that manner, where it is only just the top torso. You know, the torso is moving. So you had all that strategy, but one of the most effective strategy I felt right throughout the piece was the use of very little props. You know, one for each character, and the use of a plain top, just neutral color. And that choice, I felt in itself liberated us, the audience. So I don't know how the rest of the audience felt, but it liberated me as an audience to be able to engage with all the 8 characters more easily, you know, funnily. I mean, was that something that you had planned in your head, in your ideas when you were staging it?
But the gamble with that was that it had to be simple yet distinct so that the audience doesn't feel lost in the 8 characters, because it's as you described, right? She's in a neutral color. She's not putting on wigs. So then everything is, it's the gestures which become the prop. She has one simple prop for each character, but it also meant like it was much bigger gamble, because it also meant that if it didn't hit the marks, then it would just be a mess of like, oh wait, is she a he now or she now? Which one? Where are they now? I think all that. Yeah, I don't know. Jo, were you kind of at any point feeling like you were teetering on the tightrope?
Yeah. Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
That's part
Yeah.
of the fun.
Yeah, I wanted to cut my hair. I really wanted an excuse to cut my hair. But then Jasmine was like, don't cut your hair. I really wanted to do like, oh, something asymmetrical, you know, this side is a bit more male or whatever. But she's like, no, don't do it. So yeah, I'll find some other
No,
excuse
because
to cut my hair.
we kind of figured that, you know, her default
Yeah.
mode was like nude. So where you see it as nude, and then everything, just as we're trying to say about drag, is like, then you lay that on. Right.
Yes, yes, because from the word get go, it is about putting on. You know, everyone in that play, everyone was putting on something. Either they were putting on a role, they were putting on clothes to enhance their role, they were taking on a job, they were all putting on responsibilities. Every single character was putting on something, expectations. They were just putting on and layering it on top. It was quite amazing to see that throughout the whole play. It's about adding and adding and adding. And here, the character, or rather the performer, was the direct opposite, was reducing. So it was a nice contrast, and I thought it offered a very a lovely breathing point for the audience to enter as well. I do have a question here from the audience there, and it's, I think, from Shahiran Sahari. And this is to do with one of the drag characters that was written in your script, Joe. Have you ladies, or even for Joe herself, because she wrote that, ever
Ladies,
met? Yeah, have you ladies ever met a real life Caucasian drag queen like the character introduced last night, where he was very masculine at the workplace? And
Oh,
in other words, yeah.
oh, that's very interesting. I do know
And
Caucasian
apparently
drag
he
queens.
was, yes. Hmm.
I do know Caucasian drag queens only because part of it is that I also did study in France. So like I did a year and a half in France in drama school, and you meet all kinds of performers from Europe, and yeah, I have to say. No, I mean, yes, they when they switch on the femininity, it's like amazing. It's 100 times of it, right? But of course, Becca will also tell you that there's different types of drag queens. Some of them perform the femininity to the hilt, femininity to the hilt, where they're amazingly beautiful and graceful and so sexy and gorgeous. And then there's other people who just mess with the idea of what's femininity, and it's like, look at me, I'm just insane, like, but I'm still a woman, right? I'm still a woman. Um the drag queen Ethan last night, I have met somebody like him. It's loosely inspired by this person that I do know. I have to say it was never the intention to play him masculine at the workplace. And yeah, did it come off as masculine? I don't think. Yeah, I don't think he come. No, I don't think he for the person that I know. No, he does not perform masculinity. No, sorry. That I'm speaking too fast. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. But I would say he never crosses the borderline into what we would regard as being a masculine man at the workplace. Yeah.
is the question more if it's somebody who's completely performing that, you know,
Mm.
as a survival tactic to be closeted, to be safe? Is that what the question is? Because there are
That,
also people, and I've met, I mean, people who are not people, the way I see people, yeah, I've who professionally perform as drag queens, but out of drag, you wouldn't
wouldn't
know. I mean,
guess.
it's not something that, yeah, when you met them in the supermarket, you wouldn't say, you totally look like a drag queen. And that would be your profession on an application form for a passport or
Yeah.
anything like that.
No,
And like
absolutely. And
you say, it's so many different not types, you know, but you know, and that spectrum is so broad, and you can define it, and you know, gender bend. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like drag is an art form. I mean, that's what I would argue, because otherwise, then people would say, what are you, a cis straight woman, doing performing drag? It's an art form. So when you go into your character, when you're exhibiting this art form, you do put something on. So yeah, depending on what your personality is, normally it could be completely different. But yeah, thanks for the question. But for the person it's based on, no, I have to say no and no. Yeah.
However, I would like to pick up what Jasmine has said, because that's exactly what's happening in the script, isn't it? The layering on and the performing of these roles that they're constructed for you. That's what I thought most of the characters were putting on. They were putting on roles. They were trying to live in a world where these norms, these norms are expected of them, and then they start to perform them, and sometimes they
Mm,
overperform them, like the way
mm,
Jezebel is very aware what she's performing, how she uses her sexuality as a performance to get somewhere, because she feels that is what is expected. Now I'm just going to give that to you. And Yen, sorry, Yen herself too was performing something. She was
mm,
performing the timidness, because she felt that that would be what could get her. Because there was this whole notion of promotion that we never really talked about, which is the office promotion, because it
mm,
looms right, it threads right throughout the play, about this promotion and how people expect you to perform a particular role so that you can get promoted, you can get accepted, you know, in some
mm.
ways.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. I mean, she was performing helplessness, which I've been guilty of doing. I think I think lots of people, especially women, I think we are guilty of like, "Oh, I don't know." It's like, "Oh, okay, I help you, I help you." And then, that's also a weapon. And but again, like, it comes with its consequences. Whatever you perform comes with consequences. Yeah.
There is a question from, I think, Robin. It's to do with themes in your
Mm,
performance. Were there any themes around gender performance that you wanted to explore but ultimately decided to leave out for the sake of the story? You know, what are other ideas and themes that you would have wanted to incorporate but may not have been able to do so?
Mm. Well, um, I sorry, it means I essentially switched from playwright mode to like performer mode, I think a few weeks ago. So I was like, oh, screw this, I'm not going to judge my work anymore. So I have not thought about this for a while.
Okay.
I yeah, but I mean, there were a lot of things that I struggle with, and people have actually told me sometimes that my writing has tries to pack too much stuff in it. So, but there were a lot of things that I did think about when I was writing it. I was like, how if we want to talk about gender perceptions and sort of how people are oppressed, whether you are male or whether you're a female, by certain gender roles, because you feel that you have to squash yourselves into these roles. I mean, of course, one big bugbear is uh, violence, which is physical violence. But I just felt, I mean, some of the characters come close to it, but it doesn't actually happen. So yeah, I mean, I was thinking, do I want to miss this out? Because this seems like a major thing, and of course, during this period of lockdown, which is thankfully over, a lot of women did experience
Yes.
gender violence against them, and I was just thinking, yeah, I mean, that's something that I would love to write about, but it's so, yeah, I felt I was not qualified, and I was not qualified to write about that.
You right, but you see it.
Threatened,
I
you
think
see
in
it.
three of the in three of the characters, it's quite clear they have been recipient of violence, gender
Yes.
violence. You know,
Yes.
the way they are, why they are,
Yes.
how they claim that, I'll show you what it is. I'll show you. Then what I'll remind you that you're a woman, right? And then what's
Mm,
behind something like that? And you get that sense
yeah,
that something has happened to that character before, right? So I think that it's I not even suggested. It's quite clear, and I think that's the layering that we did give to the character. So I think it was quite implicit already.
yeah. But thanks
Yes.
for asking that question, Rob. Sorry, yeah, just to respond, like, yeah, so as Jasmine said, gender violence is not just against women. I mean, although physically it might be more prevalent against women, I mean, I suppose the statistics are still coming out as more and more people dare to come forward. But yeah, it's gender violence. It's not just against women. Anyway, you knew that already. So anyway, okay.
Yes, it was in the script actually. It is in the script. If you catch hold of the performance again, you would see some of the characters actually reveal how violence was enacted on them when they were much younger. You know, and that in itself, bullying, gender violence began when they were much younger, right? Isn't it? Because there were stories about that in some of these
Mm,
characters. And I think it raises the bar of all of us, our parents out there, teachers out there, you know, when as young children are encountering relationship with other young children in the playground, in the toilets, in the canteens, in the classroom, bullying is part of that gender violence, I feel. You know, when we bully one another as a kid, and how that trauma perpetuates the kind of person that you grow up to become, and how you embrace your identity, and how you then cloak your pain and your insecurities because you remember how others treated you. And I felt parts of that script actually raise that
mm.
issue. As an educator, I feel very strongly that we could raise that. You know, why do people bully, and how do people bully? Yeah. Thank you very much for that question. We have, okay, thank you very much, Robin, for that question. We have lots of comments of congratulations and a great amount of respect for both Jasmine and Joe for putting a show, Corina Lim. The play is awesome. I really enjoyed it and was
Uh,
blown away by the very intelligent and funny script from Corina Lim. The medium really showcased Joe's incredible talent, and it is amazing that you did this live when you could very well have pre-recorded it.
No, don't suggest it.
No,
We have
no,
to
I
keep
must
doing live
say,
things.
yes, it is so important for me because when I invited the two of them, I said it has to be live streamed because it is about getting to that vulnerability and of course the it's not, the simulation isn't the right word for it, but it's the essence of what making work, a creative work, the art of performing is all about. It's about that liveness. And true, no doubt, they're all very scary moments, but I must say kudos to both Jasmine and Joe for taking up the challenge. And I really thank you for doing it
It's
with us, with
it's
Now.
it's all Joe,
You
because
know.
all I do is just sit there and just try not to have my stomach also bleed out. That's
No,
all.
no. Thank you for
It's
your
really,
perspectives, on the characters, and like you said, like, oh, it's like I wrote certain things and I couldn't quite identify why certain scenarios were bugging me, or why I felt I needed to elucidate them. And then I think you quite naturally seized on things like, yeah, well, this is about gender violence. This is why this character feels this way. This is why this character is acting in a certain way. I really appreciate, like, you really helped to flesh out my thoughts. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
I do want to engage with the audience a little bit more because we still have about 5 more minutes. As one audience member says, can we address what Jolene said? It's important. Could you flesh up what Jolene said, because I cannot see it on my page because I only get a little small box.
Yeah,
Jolene,
eyesight
if
is
you're
very
still
bad.
out there, no, it's not my eyesight. It's just really I cannot find Jolene's question. Jolene, if you're still out there, it would be very good if you
Okay.
put up your question, Jolene. I'm so sorry, I must have missed it on the Facebook site. Or someone
It's there
else
now.
could. Is
As
there now?
a
Oh, yes.
queer,
As
yeah,
queer.
yeah.
Sorry. Yes. Can you read it for me, please, Joe?
Yes, I can. Okay, so Jolene says that as a queer, she's very partial to Ethan, and she's low key salty about what happened to him for the cis het protagonist's growth. Yeah, fair enough. No, thanks for saying that. Originally, he came back. He came
Mm.
back in the final scene. Uh, but yeah, so that was one of the cuts that we. So basically, originally I wrote resolutions for almost everybody, and then I think some of the comments I received was, well, do we really need to know? And maybe Ethan is something that we should have addressed. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, poor Ethan. Yeah, no, you're right. No, thanks for bringing that up, Jolene. Yeah, let me have a think about that. How I can address that if if it's ever restaged as a live performance. No, but no, you're right. I mean, yeah, it's I see what you're saying. Is it a bit like fridging? Is it a bit like fridging him? But at the same time, he's also not the only character. He's not the only drag queen performer. I mean, there's other. Without revealing too much, there are certain characters who share his sexuality and share his gender identity that are very much happy and well at the end of the performance. So but I would love to hear from you. So please, maybe I'll try and get in touch with you after this as to how I can more respectfully handle these characters, or whether you feel that other characters who share his sexuality and gender identity, even if they're okay at the end of it, does that remedy anything? I don't know, but yeah, let me, yeah, would love to have a discussion with you about that. Yeah, thank you for that comment.
There's one thing
well,
that would like. Yeah. Yes. Jasmine, continue,
no,
please.
no, it's all right. No, I was going to say, I mean, in a sense, you can, again, spoiler alert, and please watch it and watch it again if you've already watched it. But I guess every character in there is a casualty, and it's necessary to be a
Yes.
casualty
Yeah.
before you can get to the other side. And even while, Ethan takes a battering, he also needed to be schooled a little, by his sort of stereotyping and expectations of what yen should be, and what women should be, and what boobs are, and what femmes are, and all that. So I think that was what's great about there isn't just that stark kind of black and white about everything. All the characters have, you could, no matter the more despicable ones or not, there's something it's something lovable about them. You can care for them, because I think the way Joe has written and performed them, it feels that there's layers to them.
Yes.
There I mean, I hate to say that the clips shown, it makes them sound like they are soapbox orators, but
Oh no.
the everything around it is really very funny and really, and not just, they're just not vehicles for jokes, right, to be delivered. But I think they were fleshed out really nicely in the writing and in the performance. So please do watch it. And yes, please share your feedback about what really helped.
Jolene.
And
But thank you, Jolene, for that. Yeah, it's interesting because the last thing I think I was hoping to do was to fridge somebody. So yeah, I'm sorry if I did that. But yeah, let me have a go. But anyway, no, but I mean, it's a thank you for the opinion. I'll have a think about it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Because that's one thing about the work. In the genre of script writing and in the process of developing a performance, it's never an ending. It is always a constant work in progress, even though it has been staged, you know, and it should continue to develop. This is a comment from the floor, Becca de Bas. I think Becca de Bas is responding to that question. I think this is problematic in the same way that the movie Ticked Off Trannies and Knives is problematic, which is that the queers and drag folk are essentially props for the story, so that really about something else. Drag here stands in for gender roles, and they're not precisely the same thing. I should be clear that I don't think problematic is necessarily a bad thing, and I suppose this is where the conversation can deepen, which is very difficult for currently what's happening right now, right? So yes, okay, how would you respond to that?
Oh no, I think that's a valid point. Yeah, no, I'd love to have a further conversation with Becca actually. Then because then yeah, I'm just wondering then, was I correct at all to use my experience performing drag to talk about my own sort of confusion around my own gender identity. So I think this is something I also had a discussion with another friend about, which is that, so I have this experience of performing drag, and it raised certain questions in my head. And so I wanted to do the same in the play, which was to use drag to talk about these questions in my head. So yeah, I think there was a suggestion that could have been appropriation. And some of that argument between myself and that friend was discussed in that clip that you saw between Ethan and Sterling, where I really felt very confused. Like, so in the first place, can I do that? Or if I do it, is it inherently problematic or inherently appropriative already? Like I think I made certain tweaks to it, but how is there any possibility that it can be fixed without changing the character to somebody who is not me, like to a queer protagonist? Yeah, so I'm just wondering, like, am I still allowed to discuss my own experience on the drag stage and the questions that arose from that? Yeah, so yeah, that is something that
my thoughts about this is I think with any kind of piece of work, it's important to be able to keep workshopping it and continue that conversation. It's not like you perform it one time and that one production
Precisely.
and then it's set in stone, because I think you continue to grow, you continue to have that kind of dialogue with the audience. And I think there's something else to be said, that don't forget that it is a story of Yen, right? And in the beginning, she needs a man, Sterling, her drag king persona, to help her say everything she needs, and then basically how that rug is pulled from underneath her, right? That crutch that she thought she had, that armor that she thought she had, doesn't work for her in the end, right? And I think in not trying to manufacture just happy endings for every single character. I mean, like, what I love about what you wrote about Matthew, the fiance, was he doesn't get it right to the end. And there was something so heartbreaking and earnest and real about his about how he tries, but he just couldn't. And there was something very moving about that. And I thought that was that you weren't trying to manufacture or just kind of like force him to have this kind of epiphany, and then magically he just wakes up and then there's a happy ending, right? And I think that it had to be recognized that some people just this is not the time for him. Maybe in another, 2 years after the credits roll, that's where it happened to him, or never at all. But then that
Yeah, but
was being true to his character, that you were true to his
yeah,
character.
yeah, but no, I mean, thank you, Becca, for that. Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, I think one of the major resistances I had when talking to that friend was I felt that okay, so something I have a personal experience and I want to write about it, but now I can't because you're saying that I had no role in the history of drag, so I have no basically I have a personal experience that I just can't talk about. That was the feeling that I got. Um, yeah, so I don't know how to really balance that. Yeah, but would love to find out more from you and see, yeah, see what can be done. So yeah.
As said earlier, when wanting to create this piece, it was still a very fresh script. It was something that
Mm-hmm.
even throughout this whole process of doing it digitally, I know that the script also went through many, many changes, through collaborations with Jasmine and through trying to figure out how the rhythm would be, because the rhythm of the space and the place, as well as performing it digitally, is very, very different from doing it live. And hence, when I mooted it to Joe, the playwright, I said, look at it as a part one of this process of King. And that part two, when it comes again, when things are better, it can be live. And now you have two legacies and two ways of making this work better. It was that staging it is part of the process of writing. Because it is a very different process from just reading a table reading and then staging it. You really learn a lot from staging it, and you learn a lot as an artist crafting the work, and the various ways in which you can evolve it and make it better and better and better. And that's why this conversation today was also important for us to stage, that we want to have this conversation because it is so far, everybody is so far away. And we're very, very happy that people are willing to have long conversations and writing it with such, you're taking time
Yeah.
to write it. And we thank you, every single one of you, for taking the time to type out these words, when otherwise it would have been much easier. Just raise your hands and speak. It's so much easier that way. So we appreciate every single comment you have. So if you're still interested to offer longer comments that we could help in the process to facilitate that, you can always email it to connect.tworks@gmail.com. Suddenly I forgot what the email is. Connect.tworks@gmail.com. Connect, CONNECT.tworks@gmail.com. And I could gather those other comments as well. Yeah. Or
Darlene, just
Joe?
check, will the comments remain on this link or will they
Yes,
disappear?
yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
They
Okay,
will,
great, yeah.
because we will clip them immediately and then we will
Okay,
offer them to you. Yes, yes.
okay, awesome, yeah.
And with that, we thank you for being with us tonight, for being so engaged and participative in this platform, which is a rare feat in itself. And thank you very, very much for your generosity and your time. Thank you also to Joe and Jasmine for taking the plunge and coming
Thank
along with
you.
us for Now Festival of Women Now 2020, when we pivot digitally. It's been a wonderful learning experience for all of us, and you coming on board to journey with us has also been one of the wonderful blessings that we've had. Thank you very much, Joe and Jasmine. And
Thank
for
you.
tomorrow, thank you. And for tomorrow, we have Stephanie Chan and Lee Ting Tan, who are queer art makers and occasionally do drag king. And they will be here to answer questions more about their experience performing in Fit for a King, looking and exploring at gender performances and everything else in between, every king in between. And they will talk about the legacy of drag king, but also more importantly about their personal journey with working on these performances. So join us tomorrow at 7:30, both on T-Works Facebook page as well as the YouTube channel. Until then, stay well. Thank you very much. Once again, thank you,
Thank
Joe
you.
and Jasmine.
See you all again.
And
Thank you so much.
Hey.
thank you
Bye.
to the rest of the team of King, Hanafi, Sam, Raymond, everybody else that have contributed. Thank you. They did wonderfully, wonderfully. Thank you so very
Yes, I
much.
did.
Good
We
night,
all done.
everyone.